called it civilization, but it was built on blood, before marble statues and emperors in gold. Rome was nothing more than a struggling village on the banks of the Tiber, a handful of shepherds and warriors, hardened by hunger, united by fear. But from that soil of violence, something monstrous began to grow. Not a city, an idea that power, true power, was meant to be taken, never given. This is how Rome conquered the world, not with mercy, but with the sword. You're watching history unsealed, where empires rise and the truth bleeds through time. Subscribe now to uncover the power, the deceit, and the human cost behind history's greatest legends. Rome began with kings, then murdered them. They said they wanted freedom, but their freedom was built on domination. Every neighbor became a target. The Sabines, the Latins, the Etruscans. Each battle made Rome stronger. Each victory fed its hunger. And soon, the Republic believed it had a destiny to rule not just Italy, but the world itself. To them, war was not chaos. It was order. Every Roman boy was raised to believe that courage was worth more than compassion, that loyalty to Rome was greater than loyalty to life. They fought not for glory, but because they were told that without conquest, they were nothing. Legion by legion, the wolf of Rome devoured everything in its path. Carthage, a city of wealth, power, and defiance, stood in their way. For years, Rome and Carthage clashed in wars that turned the Mediterranean red. When the dust settled, the Senate gave a single order: Carthago delenda est. Carthage must be destroyed. And they did. They burned the city, enslaved its people, and sowed salt into the soil so nothing would ever grow again. That was Rome's justice, total annihilation. But conquest has a rhythm, and Rome mastered its beat. They marched into Greece, claiming to liberate it from tyranny, only to plunder its temples and enslave its thinkers. They conquered Gaul, today's France, slaughtering entire tribes until rivers ran red. Julius Caesar himself wrote it down proudly, as if genocide were an act of glory. He called it victory. History calls it empire. Rome built roads across continents, cities from ashes, monuments from the bones of slaves. They gave the world law, order, and art, but at a price paid by others. For every marble column, there were 10 men buried beneath it. For every triumph, 1,000 widows wept. And as their empire grew, so did their arrogance. They believed the gods had chosen them, that the world itself was Rome's inheritance. To resist was to defy fate, and fate in Rome's eyes was absolute. Then came Caesar, the man who would turn the Republic into an empire. He crossed the Rubicon not just as a general, but as a warning. Rome no longer belonged to the people. It belonged to those who could seize it. Caesar's victories stretched from Spain to Egypt. He crushed enemies, rewrote laws, and named himself dictator for life. But even a god can bleed, and the Senate made sure he did. They killed him to save the Republic, and in doing so, buried it forever. From the ashes of that betrayal rose Augustus, Rome's first emperor. He promised peace, and for 2 centuries, Rome called it the Pax Romana, the Roman peace. But peace for Rome meant silence for everyone else. In Britannia, the Iceni were crushed for daring to rebel. In Judea, rebels were nailed to crosses by the thousands. In Germania, forests were burned and children taken as slaves. Rome's peace was the peace of the grave. They built amphitheaters where men were torn apart for sport, where gladiators' screams echoed while senators applauded. The Colosseum stood as their proudest symbol, beauty crafted from brutality, a monument not to civilization, but to the human cost of it. Yet even the mightiest empire cannot escape decay. As the centuries passed, Rome's bloodlust turned inward. Corruption rotted its core. Emperors murdered emperors. Generals turned on their own legions. The same violence that built Rome began to consume it. The borders weakened. The people starved. The gods turned silent. And in 410 AD, the unthinkable happened. Rome, the eternal city, was sacked. Its streets, once drenched in the blood of others, now ran with its own. They had conquered the world, but they could not conquer themselves, because every empire built on blood eventually drowns in it. Rome's ruins still stand, proud and broken, a reminder that power is never eternal, and that civilization is only as strong as its mercy. And so the story of Rome ends where it began, with men chasing glory and finding only ghosts. This was not just a story of war. It was the story of us, because the echoes of empire still whisper through time. And perhaps one day, history will call our age the same, an empire built on blood. You've been watching History Unsealed, where the truth of power is never buried. If you believe history should be told as it truly was, subscribe and join the journey.